Demons Within, Episode 2, Season 2, which is just Season 1, but after a small break. So, welcome back. Some of you who tuned in last week for the first episode might have realized that Job Pete has been replaced by Jobby the Elf. And I just want to assure you that Jobby the Elf is only temporary. Pete's doing a ton of work behind the scenes. So he will be back. He will be back. Probably in episode 4. We just have a ton of shit going on. We have a lot of stuff going on. Pete's got so much stuff in the works. We've been having so many meetings with media, with literary agents, and publishing companies. And then we have he has side projects. He sits on the board for places. He does all this nonprofit work. He's just a go guy. He gets up at 2 a.m. and I call him when I wake up at 7 a.m. and he's already done with more work than I do the whole day. So yeah, that's what's going on with that. So thankfully we do have Jobby the Elf. He's been part of the family from day one. He's a big Giants fan. So I'm actually recording this before I even know if the Giants beat the Cowboys last week, but I'm assuming that they did not beat the Cowboys last week. So I'm sad about that. But I'm not going to let it hold me down because I'm not sadness. I'm not my feelings. And if you watch this show, if you consume my content, you know that we don't let that shit hold us down. So what's new, Jobby? Yeah, Jobby doesn't like to talk. He doesn't really like to talk. I don't know what his deal is. But what's going on in the world of Greg Miller? Well, I saw the Barbie movie, and I thought it was awesome. I thought it was hilarious. I thought Ryan Gosling was mad funny. I thought Michael Cera was hilarious. I thought Kate McKinnon, when she was doing the splits, was mad funny too. Margot Robbie was perfect Barbie. I thought it was great. I thought it was hilarious. And the thing, though, I want to mention is I've discovered that there's like a small segment of the male population. I think it's a vocal minority, which in most instances like this, it is a vocal minority, but they're like outraged at the movie because it's like anti-men. I mean, it's an absurd movie. It reminded me of a South Park episode. It's like satire. And it's not like subtle. It's not subtle satire. It's like really smacks you on the face, but that doesn't mean it's bad satire. It was hilarious. I'm not going to make a judgment and call an entire segment of the male population misogynistic based on their outrage over one movie. I think you need a little more information than that, but I'm pretty confident to make a statement that the men who are outraged over the Barbie movie might be the most insecure men in the world. I just don't get it. I don't know. You should probably go talk to a therapist if you're literally upset over the Barbie movie. It was great. It was great. It was a good movie. Speaking of Barbies, no, I'm just kidding. Not really speaking of any Barbies, but I'm back out there. That's what do you think of that, Jobby? You back out there? You got a girl, Jobby? Didn't think so. So yeah, I've been dating. I don't kiss and tell, but I can tell you that it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun time to date, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready, and yeah, it's exciting. And I think that's a big difference. Season 1, to the people who watched it, which was just the same season before the break, there was a lot of talk about the past. I had to allude to a lot of past relationships. It was necessary. Well, some would argue it wasn't, but it was. To me, it was, at least. And that's really all that matters for me when I'm making this show. I want to speak from the heart. But season two, we're talking about the future from the perspective of the present. And it just feels good to actually go out and have fun with a lady friend when there's no baggage. There's no resentment. There's no guilt. None of that. It was very refreshing and awesome. And, I might have to cut this because I don't know if anybody cares. What else is going on? Oh, daylight savings. Is it daylight savings? Whatever it is, it's the one where you turn the clock back. So it's just darker. Like, come on, man. It's 2023. I feel like you got to figure that shit out. Nobody needs it to just be darker, to get darker early. Job Pete, not Jobby. Jobby sleeps in, but Job Pete probably likes it because he gets up at 2 a.m. So he gets he's the only person in the world who gets an extra hour of daylight this time of year. And that's why he's the job. But anyways, I know now that we're about a week. What are we, like 2 weeks in? I think we were about 2 weeks into the clocks turned back, and like it took me 2 weeks to get over the hump. It's like you have to adjust to it. And for some people, it just never adjusts until we get the clocks back into where they should be, where we don't lose an hour of daylight. And people who have this actually, I don't know if it's an official diagnosis. Like, I don't think it's in the DSM, but it is seasonal affective disorder, which is conveniently SAD. It's called SAD. So SAD, I got a little note here. It's not considered a separate disorder, but it is a type of depression characterized by its recurrent seasonal pattern, with symptoms lasting about 4 to 5 months per year. So the symptoms are pretty much the same as major depression, which is feeling depressed most of the day, losing interest in activities you enjoyed, changes in appetite or weight, problems with sleep, feeling sluggish, low energy, difficulty concentrating, all those things. And especially for the winter one, I guess, it's like overeating, oversleeping, weight gain, social withdrawal. And that's particularly true for like the Northeast where I live because it's cold out. People don't go outside as much unless you're like a winter sports guy, which honestly, I feel like that should be part of a treatment plan for people with SAD. Prescribe them to do some type of outdoor winter sport. You can snowshoe, you can ski, you can snowboard, you can ice skate, you can whatever, there's a ton of stuff, snowmobile. But I know that's also asking a lot because I understand how depression works. So it's like I'm feeling depressed because of this seasonal crap. And it's like, yeah, I'm depressed. I don't feel like going out and starting to learn how to snowboard. So yeah, it's just interesting that we have this thing that's literally called SAD. But it's just another thing we have to deal with in today's day and age. So what else is going on, Jobby? Nothing's going on with Jobby. What else is new? Jobby, you have SAD? Are you affected by the seasons? Because I haven't heard you speak in 2 weeks. So what else? Well, we had Veterans Day. What did I do on Veterans Day? I didn't do anything. It was literally the same day for me, although I did, I have nothing but respect for veterans. I know I'm friends with a few, and then I had a lot of military. My family, my grandparents were in World War II. But I found this one stat that was eye-opening. I know we've talked about PTSD on here and how it's almost unfortunate for people who weren't in the military who have PTSD because they oftentimes don't get recognized for it because it is really, PTSD is something that almost goes hand in hand with veterans of foreign combat. Veterans of war. But this stat blew my mind. And according to the Wounded Warrior Project's annual Warrior Survey, mental health issues accounted for 3 of the top 4 most common service-connected injuries among veterans registered with the nonprofit who served either on or after 9/11. And 3 out of the 4 of these veterans reported PTSD. That's insane. So these people, these men and women who are entering the service for us, they're going to war, they're going overseas. I mean, they're putting their physical well-being on the line, but most of them, 75% of them, they have mental issues after. It's just a disaster, and there's just not enough help for them. I honestly suggest every single person who's watching this right now donate some money to one of these places, like the Wounded Warrior Project, which is a good one. I will put some links in the description because it's important. I think this leads into the topic pretty well. The topic today is about Seneca, who is one of the fathers of Stoicism. Him, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, who I've talked about at length on the podcast and on my content. But this is specifically about sort of Seneca's take on Stoicism, specifically when dealing with living a life of authenticity and dealing with adversity. So I think that does go hand in hand with this Veterans Day thing, because living with authenticity and dealing with adversity, no matter where you are in life, it takes courage. And courage, it's like a muscle. It gets stronger with practice. And the only way to strengthen that courage is to test it. You have to test your spirit, your character, and you have to face adversity. So when you're testing your character, that should build character. And building character is the way to be authentic. But I will get more into that. I do want to tell you this story. I actually got this from this book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It might have been the sequel. But it's about courage. And it exemplifies courage so perfectly. And it doesn't have these big, like, savage dudes running into battle. It doesn't have somebody standing up for themselves, like, whatever. It's a great story. So this 5-year-old girl, she's diagnosed with this blood disorder that's terminal. And the only way that you can be healed from it is if you get a blood transfusion by somebody who has the antibodies with it. So this 5-year-old girl, the only person that they could find in the world who has those antibodies is her 7-year-old brother. So the doctors ask him, will you do this blood transfusion? And he thinks it over and he's like, if it's going to save my sister, then of course I'll do it. So they do the blood transfusion, they hook him up, and they watch his little sister, her color returns, and she starts to get full of life. She becomes vibrant again. And the boy who's giving the blood, he starts to get a little pale and he's a little weak because it's part of the process. But he looks at the doctor mid-procedure and he's like, so will it be quick, or do I just sort of drift off to sleep and like pass away? So the moral of this story here, this little boy, because he was only 7, he didn't realize that he was going to survive. He was just donating some of his blood. He literally thought that he was going to die, and he was going to willingly do that so his little sister could live. That's courage. That's love. If I didn't have these glasses on right now because of the blinding light, you would see the watery eyeballs. Love that story. Courage is a huge, huge, huge part of life, especially when it comes to, well, facing adversity. It's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of times you have to be courageous to face adversity. But there's also ways that you can face adversity and not have courage, like running away from it. And that could be a temporary reprieve from the adversity. But it also takes a lot of courage to live authentically. And that's what we're going to start with. We're going to talk about Seneca's views on how to live authentically. All right. So being authentic, the first thing you have to do is you have to know yourself. You have to honestly and genuinely look inside and see who you are. Because when it comes down to it, we're all suited for different tasks. And then if you sort of mix in chance and fortune, and we see that while the quality of our inner character is within our control, and how we contribute to society is not entirely within our control. Because the qualities that are given to us at birth, they do tend to stick with us. People vary widely in their physical differences, and then there's an even greater difference in psychological dispositions and personality traits and just the wide array of God-given talents. So the stuff that's totally out of our control is things like our upbringing, our parents, the wealth we're born into, our location that we're born as a child, access to good teachers, to healthcare, things like that. The things, though, that are within our control, and this is what's key for being authentic, is our personal agency, our intention and our decision-making, what we decide to apply ourselves to, like what endeavors we decide to go all in on and to work towards. On the other side of that, it's the energy that we have and that we use to pursue what we want to contribute. Because it's impossible to live authentically if you do not know who you are. So what is one way to know yourself and to be authentic? Self-consistency. So many people, including me for most of my life, were guided by impulse and desire. And, I talk about it a lot. Like I would wear masks and I would try to fit into different groups. And I was constantly changing my identity. I was lacking awareness. I was wearing masks like actors on a stage. And the key, according to Seneca, is to play a single character until the curtain falls. That's literally one of his quotes, which is unbelievable. You play a single character yourself until the curtain falls. Because the thing is, too, is constantly changing masks leads to bad character. And like I said, character is who you are, what's within you. You need to have good character. Bad character is unreliable. Good character is content with itself and it endures over time. So the problem with like wearing masks to fit in or appear a certain way to certain people is never the way, because once a false public persona is constructed, it creates anxiety from the likelihood that this image will be discovered as a falsehood. So you create this false persona or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be crazy, but you sort of, they say fake it till you make it a lot in like sales. So you create this image that you want people to see, but it's not truly who you are, but you create this so you can fit in, and then you get in. So you're fitting in, but that whole time, even if you don't realize it, in the back of your mind, you have this anxiety waiting for the moment that you're almost inevitably going to get exposed. It's a problem in a lot of like narcissistic relationships. When if someone with narcissistic personality disorder meets somebody that they like, they have this love bombing infatuation stage where they're essentially a different person. They're like the perfect partner. And then the true self comes out and it's torture. It's toxic. It's emotionally abusive. It's terrible. And with that being said, I'm obviously not a doctor, but if you do have narcissistic personality, there is help. And you can live a happy life, but you got to check it. You got to get it checked. So anyways, consistency breeds true good character. I mean, you have to work on your character, but if you're consistent, you at least have that as a good foundation. Because another thing Seneca says is it's better to be scarred for your natural state than to be tormented by constant pretense. So in other words, if you are yourself, you know you're doing you, you're being genuine, you're being authentic, If you do something bad or you get hurt, at least you can say that was you. It wasn't an actor. It wasn't a mask, as opposed to just being tormented by constantly changing who you are. So by being consistent with yourself and building good character, then eventually your deeds will match your words and your beliefs. And that is the first step to being authentic. Knowing yourself, being consistent. The other part, so I guess that was 2 steps. Part of my true character is not good at counting. So the next thing for being authentic that Seneca really emphasizes is being persistent. All of this is about being persistent, in the face of adversity, like we're going to get into, but just being persistent despite your character coming under attack or you're starting to have doubts. But the thing is, it's not so cut and dry. I know a lot of times persistent, it's like never give up, which is true to a degree. You should never really give up on certain things. And there's a common saying that you don't judge a man by how he falls, but how he stands back up. But while patience and endurance are important for being persistent, sometimes moving on to the rational choice. And that's stoicism, is about rationality. Seneca, rational. Marcus Aurelius, rational. Epictetus, rational. And the thing that people don't realize, sometimes moving on can be persistence. And it turns adversity into a positive, because persistence doesn't mean to continue pursuing something for the sake of pursuing it. It doesn't mean just smashing your head against the wall over and over until you think you can break through to whatever you're looking for, especially when it's wrong for you or negative. Persistence really just means to keep moving forward. So no matter what you're doing, even if you have to change things up, as long as you're moving forward, you're good. You're persistent. A common saying is it's about progress, not perfection. Huge common saying in AA. And 12-step groups. And it's a thing I live by today, because some days things don't go as planned, but as long as I'm moving forward, especially over time, then I know I'm good. So when I say, progress, not perfection, the reason that no one's perfect is because adversity happens. Everybody will experience hardship and adversity, but what makes us who we are is how we respond to the adversity. Most stoic thing ever. Stoics all about the dichotomy of control. External things are mostly out of our control, and adversity is generally out of our control. So external circumstances, they are beyond us, but having strong character, being authentic, good virtuous character, that can make us invincible. So how do we handle fear and adversity? Well, let's get into it. So fear has a lot of acronyms in AA and various other self-help groups and all this other crap. So fear has 2 meanings. Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. I like that one. a lot. What about you, Jobby? So like I said, adversity in life is a certainty. And the other thing about adversity is that the accomplishments of a lifetime can be lost in a single day. And that's why true character is the way to deal with life and adversity, because things develop slowly. Like you build wealth over time, you find success over time, you build a family over time. But the way that ruin comes can be quick. I mean, they say the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, but Rome could be destroyed in a very short amount of time. Look at just natural disasters, look at terrorist activity, wars, anything, sickness. I could be the most successful external person ever and have everything I want, all material things I want, and then boom, aneurysm, dead. Everything can be taken away. Most things we have that are external are on loan. So to deal with adversity and respond to it, that's the only thing in our control, is how we respond to it. And, I always say now, patience, kindness, compassion, and clarity is the way to respond to it. So to start, as I've been saying this whole episode, you have to develop good and stable character. And it's within you, and it's completely in your control. Because like I said, anything external can be taken away. And most things, it's more like an advantage or a gift of fortune. Like if you're born really good looking and good health, if you're born into wealth, or even if you accumulate those things, it's just sort of like having an advantage. You might work your ass off for it, but still, it can be taken away at any moment. So virtue and character, however, cannot be taken away. They cannot. So it's not what we bear, but how we bear it. I'm pretty sure that's a Seneca quote too. Because like I said, adversity can strike at any moment, but the response is a measure of our true character. So I don't know if this is just all like Stoicism 101. I know a lot of people that aren't familiar with it. might just be turned off the episode by now. It wouldn't surprise me. But I deal with that how I deal with everything. Whatever. So let's look at, one technique that I talk about all the time is negative visualization. I'm going to talk about it again just because I like talking about it. So negative visualization, it's the thing that helps us prepare for adversity. So you should prepare for adversity. So how you respond to it is, the key to what Stoicism is about and the key to true character, because how you respond is the only thing within your control, but you also should prepare for it. So negative visualization, it's kind of like a fire drill where you're rehearsing adversity in advance, so it increases your ability to cope and think clearly if that event actually takes place. So a fire drill, it's exactly that. The kids go line up outside by the school bus, and that helps them prepare for a potential fire in advance, so everyone knows what to do. So the other thing that they say is that if you're shocked by something, if it comes out of nowhere, if you have no preparation or you've never thought about it before, it strengthens the impact of that. So preparation is crucial. So that's why negative visualization is such a powerful tool. I would throw a disclaimer though, if you do suffer from like crippling anxiety or panic attacks, sometimes negative visualization is not the route to go. But if you can do it and it works for you, I would at least try it, see if it works for you, because it's helped me immensely with a lot of things, especially stuff with the book and with all this stuff. I'm having like speaking engagements. Things can go wrong, but if they do, what am I going to do? I'll be prepared for it. I'll know how to react to it, and I'll stay true to myself. And actually, negative visualization, modern times, modern therapy, they still sort of use that technique with like exposure therapy. So like exposure therapy, it's like if somebody has this debilitating fear or anxiety, they will over time, little by little, expose themselves more and more to the thing that causes that fear or anxiety until it either disappears completely or it becomes manageable. So that's basically negative visualization, just in a modern time. So they got to make the name sound cool, like exposure therapy. So anyways, I guess the moral of this story is that when you have good and true character, when you're authentic, and when you implement techniques to deal with adversity, you can transform that adversity. And then, like a positive feedback loop, the adversity actually helps to develop character. And that's, tie everything up with a nice little bow, a stoic bowick, because it's a fact of nature that some plans and objectives will fail. And when those failures occur, we have to learn from them, respond with virtue, and turn it into an opportunity. Whatever happens, transform the situation into something valuable, because you can learn and grow from adversity more than almost anything else. I know I have. I had to literally hit rock bottom to learn how to live the life that I was meant to live. I've had to go through terrible relationships that I was mostly the cause of, or I was just a bad whatever. And you learn from that. So now I can do and go out and do whatever I want and have fun and joy and do it with true, authentic character and be myself and be proud of it. And when things go wrong, what do? I learn from it and I move on and I get better. Every day you can get better, because that's the other thing. I know this is a cliche, but the only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. And that's just the facts. It's just a fact. That's why people say it. So in other words, it's kind of like, you accommodate and you adapt with patience, kindness, compassion, and clarity. So that's all I got. I would highly recommend reading Breakfast with Seneca. Man, I don't know the author's name, but I'll put it on the screen. A lot of this stuff came out of that book, but it's a great and easily digestible book on Seneca's Stoic philosophy. It's fantastic. I'll probably read it multiple times throughout my life. And then you can also get Seneca's direct writings. I'll put a list of those up here too, because he's written a lot of books. One specifically, I think it's called on benefits. I think that's what it's called, where it's essentially just his like manual on gratitude. Fascinating, eye-opening, and incredibly helpful. And then Ryan Holiday. He's like a modern stoic. I've read every one of his books. He's awesome. Follow him on Instagram. He definitely doesn't need my shout out. He's got like 1 billion followers and YouTube subscribers, but he's the man. So yeah, besides that, thanks for tuning in. This is episode 2 of season 2, which is actually season 1, just after a little break. Jobby the Elf is back. The Job Peter will be back soon. Yeah. Demons Within. It's on Amazon. It's going to be in bookstores. Look for the content. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks. Peace, you is.